They got them out there,
so you
but
know.
there's still rats everywhere. They really,
I agree. It gets hot.
yeah.
But we made for his sake. We have to turn it off. Turn it back on at 5:30. Cool it down for 7. And 7 shouldn't go.
Where you sit down, I think let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Oh, if we could please get a roll call.
Supervisor Diane Benzakowski, absent. Councilmember Christine Adamczak.
Yeah.
Councilmember Linda Hammer, absent. Councilmember Michael Jazinski, absent. Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky. Present. Councilmember Brian Nowak.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Deputy Supervisor Elias Farah.
Present. All right, thank you. First item of discussion I think that we have on the agenda today is the rat control and rodent prevention for Erie County Health Department. Mr. Trippy is here. I think he's going to give us a little rundown of the rat control.
I generally sit down when I'm talking about this stuff, so this is going to be a little different for me. I was asked to attend just to basically talk about some of the services we offer in Erie County. I've been speaking to Brian. I didn't know there were so many Brians, but Brian a lot in regards to what you might want me to talk about, things like that. So what I did is I put together a package that you all have on your desks that kind of gives you a background on what's been going on in Erie County, some of the work we've done, some of the work I've done along with the town of Cheektowaga, which is extensive over the years. I was there before Totes, and I've been here since Totes, so I've been pretty invested in the whole process. Again, my name is Pete Trippy. I am Deputy Director of the Erie County Department of Health Environmental Division. I've overseen rabies disease, vector control, and a whole bunch of other programs, but vector is near and dear to my heart, so I still keep it under me because there's always work to do and always issues that we're working on to try to help the public. So real quick, my easiest way to do this, and I apologize to anybody out here, but is to go through the documents that are in here, and I will briefly describe them, and then you can ask me some questions. I'll tell you about some of the services we offer and things like that. But part of the service is this, working with towns and villages, municipalities on improving the quality of life by fighting rats in some of the towns and villages. So I changed it. I call it a Go Clean initiative. It's the Erie County's war on rats, Operation Clean Sweep, Go Clean, because it's not just about totes and garbage. It's about taking the garbage, limiting the garbage, increasing your recycling so you can keep all the lids closed. So rats don't have an opportunity to climb up into those totes, things like that. There's another document here that kind of describes Erie County's Clean Sweep program. And it kind of gives you just kind of an overview of what I do. Basically try to increase regionalized rodent control awareness, encourage municipalities to enact laws that parallel the existing Erie County sanitary code regarding rodent issues, which I know you have done, as well as the tote programs to lock down garbage and food sources. We try to educate the public and municipal officials at the same time, because it helps if you guys know what we're doing and vice versa. We do a lot of surveillance using our complaint-driven services, so we kind of see what's going on throughout all of Erie County. We promote effective proper garbage storage, tote storage, dumpster storage, and we do targeted rodent applications at residential properties and some limited public properties. We continuously evaluate our program, what we're doing, how we're doing it, what works, what doesn't work, and we keep trying everything. Quickly, I have an overview of totes in Erie County, because I was there from day one, so I put together this years ago, and it started out small, and it's amazing how once one or two villages, towns, cities started to install totes, we saw some significant progress in fighting rats, that it just kind of snowballed. And you can tell that the time frame here from 2001, when we started doing blitzes, when Cheektowaga did their tote program through present with Kenmore, Tonawanda, Williamsville, Amherst, City of Tonawanda, West Seneca, Village of Lancaster did some garbage laws at the time. Now they have totes. And the town of Cheektowaga in 2007, along with same as Amherst, adopted a full tote program, and I believe a full recycling tote program as well. And you can see how many towns and villages have kind of decided, well, this is probably the way to go. It helps clean up your community too. It's not just for rats, it's for wildlife, and it does provide for a little bit of a cleaner community too. So as far as I'm concerned, it does improve the quality of life to have these totes for residents. Sometimes if you see garbage, you treat things like garbage. If you're not seeing garbage, as you're growing up, you're more apt to not litter and do things like that. But there's also a map on this that shows you the towns and villages that went to what. Grand Island, I haven't updated that. They since started with recycling totes, and now they since went to garbage totes. That's not updated. Orchard Park currently is recycling totes. Some people have their own totes. And then just kind of a little picture thing of all the different totes, what they look like. It's just as interesting to see what everybody did, what everybody picked, and that's it for that document. Quickly, same side, left side, I put together data comparisons, because that's what I do. It's the only way we can see how we're handling things and how things are working. Let me explain them to you real quickly. The first one is a recap of the last few years, 2019 through 2023 to present, to 7/24, and it shows you how many rat complaints we responded to in Cheektowaga over those years, and you can see we had been doing really well up until COVID, 2020. We had been fighting it really hard with baiting, with awareness, and we were down to 243 complaints in Cheektowaga. It may not include a couple of little fringe, like zip codes, that there's a couple streets that come into Buffalo that's actually Cheektowaga. But for the most part, this is as accurate as we can get. You see where it jumped up in 2020, 489 complaints, and then 2021, 502 complaints, because we were still going through COVID. Now, we were out there still fighting this. Don't think we weren't. We were one of the programs that never stopped providing continuity of service to the public. Whether we were in the office or not in the office, we rotated around and we responded to every complaint that people had. And what was happening was you reduce the amount of food source because there's no commercial facilities producing food. And now they're going after everything else. They're going after the totes again. They're going after the bird feeders, dog excreta. Yes, it's disgusting, but guess what? If you don't pick it up, there's no other food source. They're going to use that as a food source. They're here to survive. And that's kind of what was happening during those years. And as soon as it started to reopen again in 2021, late 2021, the numbers increased again up to 4,300 countywide from 4,100. And then as we got out there, we were still baiting, still educating. People were starting to do the right thing again. As you can see, we reduced the numbers a little bit, and we think this year we're going to be down even a few hundred more, getting down to that manageable number countywide, as well as in Cheektowaga. The second page is the nuisance complaints themselves. Nuisance, rat baiting and nuisance complaints that we do inspections for go hand in hand. You have to eliminate food sources. You have to eliminate water sources, harborages, all those different things to attack the problem and get them to take this bait. If there's food source, they will never go in these bait boxes. They will never take the bait. They have a comfortable food source, that's what they will stick with. So that's why we do the nuisances. We call it nuisance complaints, and we use our existing laws to enforce that. Again, now to date, in 2023, this last one, This shows you what we've done so far. So far, as of 7/24, we've had 128 complaints in Cheektowaga, and it's broken down by zip code. And you can see countywide 1545. It's the busy season right now, so we're probably looking well over 3,000, but we don't know until time. Yeah. In addition to that, we take all those complaints that the general public calls in, and we plot every complaint on a map. So we can provide it to you if requested, as a tool to see what's going on in your town, as well as a tool for us to see if there's any anomalies that are showing like a huge amount of complaints in a particular area that we need to target a little more. The first one is just this year, those complaints targeted the date. And I call this the Northwest view because it just kind of shows the adjoining towns and villages, and it kind of shows the spillover from the different municipalities. And these are the complaints that we responded to, okay? In addition to that, I have just to date, January to date, the geocoded map that shows the streets. They don't have street names on them, but you can obviously figure out which streets are calling which complaints, okay? And finally, I just threw in the 2022 map. This is a full year, and it shows you in 2022 exactly where we were in Cheektowaga, and it shows the adjoining area so you can see the spillover. So you can actually figure out what streets we were on based on these maps. And I use that as an educational tool for not only for public officials to show what's going on in our county, but as well to residents. On the other side, quickly, is some educational brochures and slingers that we use to educate everybody. Because there are laws and people don't realize there are laws on the books. There's our rat pamphlet that I've left a few, I went to the county clerk's office. I can get you more of these too. It explains what to do at your own property, and also tells you the phone numbers to call for baiting. This is just a little bookmark that we did for a library program. I threw it in there too, because everybody wants to read about rats when they read the book, but it also has wildlife things on it too. In regards to these slingers, these are our laws that are on the books currently in regards to garbage, bird feeding, rodent harborages, dog excreta, and we did this to show people, yes, these are the laws, and we can say, here, this is what it is. And that is something that you guys can do as well when you're telling people to correct something. But in regards to bird feeding, when you're looking at that, we don't have a bird feeding law that says you can't feed the birds. You are not allowed to allow a bird feeder to spill onto the ground to provide a food source for rodents, okay? So that's a misnomer. What I came up with years ago is, because every time we go out on these properties, and all these properties I used to go out quite a bit, is we'd end up finding as many, if not more, problems on the property of the person complaining about the neighbor than we did on the neighbor's property. So I came up with this whole idea, fight rats 1 yard at a time. In other words, before you start pointing fingers, you need to look in your own yard. Am I doing this, and this to prevent rodents from being attracted to my yard, and to prevent rodents from feeding in my yard? So this tells you some of the things to look for. Talks about the bird feeding. In our law, the part of the bird feeding is if we deem an area infested with rodents, especially just surrounding area, we can make you take down your bird feeder temporarily. Doesn't mean forever, just temporarily till we get a handle on the situation. So this is an excellent document to use. Other towns and villages have actually used this, and that's why I included that in here, and actually adopted it into their some of their pamphlets. But I'm going to quickly go through these again. More documents stating about what the law is. It's redundant, but the ones on pet feeding outside, which is a huge problem, because as you can see, what eats food when you put it out? Cat food, dog food? Raccoons. Yes, this picture, and any pictures I generally put on these, except for this little one with the apple, I've taken, or one of my staff has taken. I feel it's more effective if you could say, hey, we found that. This is what happened. We're not just telling you to do it. We're telling you because we see it all the time. This was actually one of my veterinarians that I know that does my rabies clinic that was at a baby shower. And she looks out the window, and there is the raccoon eating the cat food that's on the bed. Well, raccoons, skunks, they cohabitate. They don't care. They'll eat out of the same bowl. And if you think cats are gonna chase them away, that's not gonna happen either, because I have pictures of cats waiting on the side till the skunk or the raccoon gets done eating out of their food bowl. So this explains the laws and how we enforce it for wildlife, and this explains in feeding outside, and this explains the bird feeding type. Now this one document where you see these lines, that is a trail that's made back and forth by a rodent, by rats, to get to this bird feeder that's filling all that bird seed on the ground. One avid bird feeder that's allowing seed to fall on the ground could cause an infestation for an entire. We've seen it. We're not necessarily against bird feeding, but we're against overfeeding and allowing it to spill onto the ground and provide a food source just like garbage would provide. And this kind of shows you the same thing, that we have raccoons love eating out of bird feeders and spilling it onto the ground. They climb right up, and we've had rats actually climb up bird feeder poles as well. So, real quickly, I'm gonna keep saying real quickly, but I'm gonna go through these quickly. I put this together because during my many, many years of promoting totes and going to the towns, I would hear residents stating, these aren't gonna last, they're, they're too much money, blah, blah, blah. And what these totes are, they were kind of guaranteed. I used to say wheel to wheel instead of bumper to bumper for 10 years from some of these companies. And this is actually, when Amherst went in, I took a picture of my son. Basically, it was one of those, it's so easy, a kid could do it, one of those things, because people said, oh, it's so hard to move these things, that kind of thing. And here is my tote 10 years later. I have not updated this, but I could go 5 more years, because this tote is still there, and I use it every week. So far, it hasn't gotten cracked or broken. So totes do work. They are economical. It costs me a lot more money to replace my garbage cans every couple of years than to pay this one-time fee for this tote. In regards to that Fight Rats 1 Yard at a Time campaign, the village of Lancaster, I have a slinger here they did door-to-door in this area that they were having a problem with, and gave them some information and to call us with issues. I have the town of Amherst as an example. I have other towns, but just an example. It's actually in 2 parts. Well, actually, it's back to back. Mine's in 2 parts. And it kind of goes through the Fight Rats 1 Year Time, but it also lists what their ordinances are, okay, for enforcement. And I also have, finally, there's one more here. Town of Tonawana's done the same thing, places like that. The village of Lancaster put together a real nice slinger years ago using our information. So I like to personally work together with municipalities. I personally see it better that residents know that the town is working with the county to fight a solution or an issue in a municipality, rather than just the town, you're out there on your own doing your own thing. We are always there to help, so it's always better to show that you're bringing in more people to fight an issue. In regards to, that's it for this part. Real quickly, the actual rodent control part of it, that we take complaints. We're a complaint-driven program, so residents can call in. They can either hire a private exterminator. If they can't afford that, they can contact us. We bait 1, 2, and 3 family homes. The only time we bait a 4-family unit, it's restricted, and you'll see it on our website, is if it's not commercialized, and not a big business. So if somebody owns 1 unit or 2 units, that's fine. We'll come and try to help you out. You own 50 units. You are a business, okay? You can afford to hire exterminators while we work on helping private citizens, because we are a small program that does big things in Erie County. We want to continue to do that. So that's why we do that. We could take off the 4 just to, for argument's sake, but we leave that on that because there's always situations where we can go in and help. And if we can, we do. But we certainly can't do a whole division area, like on Harlem, those areas like that, for you, but we can do the individual person. Our staff comes out, they have to fill out a permission slip ahead of time. We're pretty efficient. We mail it out right away, fill it out, you sign it, you send it back in, it asks a few questions about dogs, cats, children, and tells us, tells us where the problem is as well. And as soon as we get that, we can go out and bait your property with or without you there, okay? So that saves time on no answers, no calls, things like that. So we try to be as efficient as possible. I've worked with, and we continue, we put bait stations, we check the yards adjacent, behind, and that. If we have to, we issue notices to whoever is causing an issue to try to get the repair or corrected. It's an integrated pest management. Baiting should be, using rodenticides should be your last resort, not your first. Eliminate the food sources, eliminate the water sources, eliminate the harborages, the stuff piled behind the garage, and then those rats will eventually have no choice but to eat that rodenticide. And we do some trapping as well as part of it. So, I'm trying to think of anything else I haven't said, but I think I've covered a lot. I could probably cover more. As you could tell, I could probably talk forever on this subject. So, if you guys have, any else have questions or what you would like to ask?
I have two questions, kind of piggybacking off what you were just saying in regards to you check the adjacent properties around and everything. When you find a property that maybe to the back of a resident that they have trash just piled up, do you communicate that with the resident to file a complaint with buildings and inspections, or do you communicate that directly to buildings?
We actually write that property up.
You read
We actually write that property up. We go around, we talk to them, because if we see a rat trail going through there, we actually try to sign them up as well. They got two options. One, allow the county to bait, so we can help solve it. Or two, we're gonna make you hire an exterminator that's gonna cut you. And then three, you're gonna clean up your property. Because you are affecting the quality of life of everybody else. And usually, for the most part, people comply. We do tag team a lot with the town, building departments. I tag team a lot with the town of Cheektowaga. I just did a lot of work for them recently. It kind of ebbs and flows, but I'll get emails from the clerk's offices and individual building inspectors in regards to vacant homes that are creating a harborage and rodent infestation. We just went out on one that was creating a really good rat infestation. Vacant homes don't cause rats. Feeding rats cause rats. Vacant homes may give the rat an opportunity to find a home. So what we have a deal with Cheektowaga, because we've worked together so long, they know, they go out, they do the initial inspection, because the complaint usually comes to them about this vacant house. They make sure the lawn gets cut through the departments, and some of the trash, and then they put it on the rolls of whoever owns that vacant house, and then we come in and bait for them. Sometimes we'll go in and bait first. I'll send my guy out. We'll put as many bait boxes as we can fit, so they're not, chewing them up with the lawnmower. And for the most part, we can start the baiting process while they're making these corrections to the property for the residents. So we're doing that. I bet you I've done 5 in the last 2 weeks to the town of Cheektowaga. So we got a real good system when it comes to communication.
So when you guys write them up for a violation, do you communicate that violation with the town so we can put it in the record, so there's a paper trail on our part if it has to go to courts or anything? Or is that one kind of like a freebie and it's not on our radar when we see a write-up and we don't see the county ones?
I'm not sure what you mean by freebie.
Not like, it's not noticed by our courts when they look at our systems, because we have a system that
Right,
manages
they
and
wouldn't-
logs.
No, you are absolutely correct. Your town building inspector, unless we are tag teaming on something, would not necessarily know that we've written the same property up.
Okay.
Unless they contacted us or we contacted them. We do contact the towns, like I said, often, because you have more jurisdiction and control over your own municipality than we do. We are county-wide. Your building inspectors can do enforcement much quicker in regards to the town, because they can take them to court, they can do appearance tickets, whatever the style is,
Yeah.
that they do. So currently, we do not immediately provide that. We have lots of complaints, as you can see.
Yeah.
Countywide, we respond to 1,500 to 2,000 just nuisance complaints for writing people up. We certainly could come up with some sort of system that we can maybe develop with the building department of periodic, like maybe quarterly or something, or whatever they're looking for, we can try to come up with and pull the data out of our systems, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, because, I mean, if it's not in our system when the courts are looking at it, or even our building inspectors, that could possibly be a first violation on paper, but it could be a second or third, because there's 2 in the county, or, 3 in the county system that we're not
Correct,
seeing
correct.
on that
And-
end.
And again, once we're kind of like stuck, most of the time, trust me, most residents want to do the right thing. But you do have some that are obstinate and just don't want to comply, because they feel that they should be allowed to do whatever they want on their property. We try to explain, you are ruining the quality of life for everybody else around you, so why don't we be good neighbors, community members? But when that fails, we have our own enforcement mechanisms. We have what we call steps and fines. Then we have commissioners hearing that we are ramping up significantly over the last year or two, and we can also take them to court. But us taking them to court in Cheektowaga involves me personally, because I've done this years ago, or one of my staff to physically come, sign an order, make a complaint, and then it has to go on the docket. So it's always easier to refer to the building department to now take that over. So that does have good merit. Your thoughts? I have no problem in it. I can't say that, because we are not just running this, we're running a lot of programs, a lot of stuff is going on. But we certainly could maybe
Quarterly
nail
or half a
down
year, twice a year.
time frame, or when whoever is the supervising person, or whoever you want to put as the designee contacts me or my program, and we'll run a list. Because you're a municipality and they're law enforcement as well, we can provide them with that. We just can't provide the average citizen with a list of, without a freedom of information, but we can share information because we're all law enforcement based.
My last question.
Yeah.
What options does a resident have that lives in a mobile park, which is more than 4, there's multiple, there's rat issues, the owner of the mobile park won't abate or, call in exterminators? What options does that resident have?
That's an excellent question, because I've been dealing with a lot of mobile home parks, and there's a couple in Cheektowaga that have been some issues over the years that we've worked with the town building department on. The county of Erie actually permits, in other words, regulates mobile home parks. Okay, they have a permit, and it's a code that says they have to do certain things to keep this permit and operate. Whether the unit is owned or rented, it's kind of irrelevant. So the permittee is the one supposed to be taking full responsibility for control of that system, those situations, whether it be baiting, whether it be a tenant that's causing a problem, throwing the garbage out, whether it's cockroaches in garbage totes, which I just handled for somebody recently, with the town of Cheektowaga. We sent out one of our inspectors they went out, there's cockroaches blowing all out of these. Yeah, bad. So we just handle that through our permitted program. So we are not going out baiting all these. We can't. There's like the one on the street, there's like 500 units. I could have one person all year long work doing that. That's why the permittee, like a restaurant, we don't bait restaurants, we don't bait commercials. They sign a permit application, and they agree to comply with all the regulations that we have. You guys can do the same thing in certain other circumstances. If you're finding issue with some of these mobile home parks, you can actually enact ordinances that require certain things for them to do, whether it's to, we have a exterminator on retainer, have ongoing extermination, whatever you want to do. For example, would be when you knock down a vacant building. We have a law in the books that says you have to pre-bait the property, and we recommend pre-baiting the surrounding areas, even more important than this. Once you get the inside done, the outside done. But you guys, and I don't mean to use you guys, it's very unprofessional, but your town also has its building department has its own regulations regarding knocking down the building and what they have to do prior to that. So that would go into all that same type of situation. So yes, we do respond to those, but more for inspection, not for baiting. Because again, just like with the 4 units that somebody owns 20, 30, 50 of them, it is a commercial business.
I had a question.
Sure.
So, between your presentation and the questions so far, it covered pretty much everything I was hoping to cover, but we're talking about the food source for rats. What are you or what are your folks finding as the most common food sources?
Okay. There's seasonal food sources, and then there's all year round food sources. And I'm going to real quickly, because it's on here, but it doesn't get addressed enough, is fruit trees and things like that people, and mulberry bushes that turn into trees. They're really trees once you start seeing them. one of those trees and fruit trees that drop apples, that provides a nice food source in the fall and spring as the mulberries come in. So that's an excellent food source that you can eliminate by either eliminating the tree if you don't pick the apples or trimming it down. Garbage is a year-round issue, no matter what. You can give somebody a tool, but you can't make everybody use it. You can tell everybody you have to wear a seatbelt. Sooner or later, someone's gonna get pulled over not wearing a seatbelt, okay? So we have to be out there to enforce that. So the same thing goes with totes. You give them a tote, there's a lid, they're gonna overfill it because they're not recycling. My big thing is, if you recycle more, you can reduce the amount of garbage, and that tote will stay closed all the time, okay? So that is a year-round food source. Just because they have a tote doesn't mean that they're not throwing garbage on the ground. Things like that, or pushing it up against the house, the rat shimmies behind it, jumps on top, chews the hole through the lid, things like that. What's become a year-round issue is bird feeding. While everybody enjoys seeing the birds, and I certainly do as well, it's the overfeeding that becomes an issue. And it's the allowing the food to spill onto the ground, which is the regulation that it violates, which is providing a food source for rodents. And it's a significant food source, and I can show pictures of piles and piles all over the place. There's people who ground feed, and there's people who just keep filling them up. Some try putting catch trays. We recommend trying that, but if it doesn't work, you still have to clean up the ground. It's still your responsibility to eliminate that food source, not only for rodents, for wildlife, because you're gonna attract skunks, raccoons, and everything. Peanuts for squirrels. They take them, they eat the peanut, they leave the shell. Guess who's gonna eat the shell? The rat's gonna eat the shell. So that becomes a big food source as well. So that's something we battle all year round and try to educate. That's why I put that in here. Bird feeding isn't bad, just allowing the food to fall on the ground becomes the issue. So we ask people to be vigilant about their bird feeding activities, maybe target some types of birds so you don't have the spillage all over the ground, things like that. Oh, one more thing. Dog excrete, I mentioned it once already. People cringe, they're like, there's no way. I have personally seen a rat in another municipality run out into a yard, pick up a piece of dog excrete and run it back to the hole, because there was no other food source. Dogs don't digest most of these grains and things that are in it and byproducts, so there's lots of undigested food in it, and they will, in order to survive, do what they can. So we lock down the garbage totes for garbage, we lock down no more bird seed, they're gonna go after something. So they're gonna find a way to survive.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate
you.
you coming out. Thanks so much.
No problem. And again, we have plenty of handouts. I can get you copies for the clerk's office, as well as the town supervisor's office that we do a lot of work with, for handouts. And of course, you can contact me if you want. My card is in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think next we have some resolution items. Actually, did you want to go into executive session? We'd need a motion if you want to go into executive session. I just don't know.
No, I don't think we have all the board. I mean, we're missing half the board, so I would say any executive session would be mute, because we'd have to revisit it at the next meeting, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Up to you. So I can ask for is there a motion to enter executive session?
I mean, we're missing almost half the board,
Yeah.
so I would,
So I guess there's no motion. So I guess we'll just, we can adjourn until the meeting tonight at 7.
well, we gotta go through the resolution
Oh,
items. first.
sorry. Yeah, I didn't go through the resolutions. Thank you. You want to read it?
Sure.
Perfect, thank you.
Resolution 2023-414 is appointment of police officers. Resolution 2023-415 is transfer of funds. Resolution 2023-416 is the warrant. Resolution 2023-417 is the EAF negative declaration for 2460 Clinton. Resolution 2023-418 is the zoning district change for 2460 Clinton. Resolution 2023-419 is development review for 2460 Clinton. Resolution 2023-420 is the issue SEQRA negative declaration regarding lease of 171 Central Boulevard to Singular Wireless. Resolution 2023-421 is approved option and land lease agreement, again to, I believe, New Singular Wireless. Resolution 2023-422, authorized grant administration assistance on the New York Restore Grant. Resolution 2023-423, authorized supervisor to execute memorandum of understanding with Lee Randall Jones Community Residents. Resolution 2023-424, authorized supervisor to execute a memorandum of understanding with baseball, softball, various organizations. Resolution 2023-425, creation of 4 part-time building safety inspector positions. Resolution 2023-426, reappointment of member to the Board of Ethics. Resolution 2023-428, appointment of senior sewer maintenance worker. Resolution 2023-429, appointment of a senior sewer maintenance worker. Resolution 2023-430, youth and recreation hiring. Resolution 2023-431, hiring termination of part-time seasonal employees. Resolution 2023-432, travel authorization for the building and plumbing department. Resolution 2023-433, travel authorization for the building and plumbing department. Resolution 2023-434, travel authorization for the police department. And Resolution 2023-435, travel authorization for the police department.
Thank you. Well, I guess that's pretty much all we have until 7 o'clock at the meeting, so until then, the meeting, I guess for this part, the work session is adjourned, and then we'll see you at the meeting at 7 o'clock.